incredibly, the enormous barns are still standing. These were people who lived in hovels and little cottages and were used to buildings the size of small parish churches. This was architecture designed by the enemy. And it wouldn't have been empty like it is today. It would have been jam-packed from floor to ceiling with peas and beans and corn and barley. And where would the profits have gone? Not to the local people. It would have all gone to the headquarters of the Knights Hospitaller in Malta. And there wasn't just one of these things. There was another one just as big right there. They must have really hacked the local people off. So why didn't they burn them down? The answer is because they were country folk. What they did set fire to was over there, behind those walls, the offices and the kitchens and the refectory of the monks. As far as country folk were concerned, these were useless. But these were seriously useful. Do you think that they did an enormous amount of damage when they were here?
Yeah, they must have done an enormous amount of damage. At the time, there was stored food and wine for the general chapter of the Knights Hospitallers by order of Robert Hales. And apparently the rebels ate all the food and drank all the wine. The chronicle account says it was 3 casks of wine, which is 3 barrels, or the equivalent of 90 to 100 gallons and 450 liters. That is quite a lot, and they were quite fortified when they set on their way.
Was this the only place associated with Hales that got attacked?
No, quite a few manors of the Knights Hospitallers were attacked in Lincolnshire and Leicestershire, 3 places in Cambridgeshire, places in London besides Clerkenwell, the manor of Highbury. So it was a deliberate attack on the manors of the Knights Hospitallers and on Robert Hales himself.
How many people do you reckon turned up here?
We can be sure that at least 110 people from 50 different parishes, villages all over Essex turned up, and 1 person from Northfleet in Kent, interestingly.
Presumably if 110 got charged, there must have been more than that here.
Yes, I guess so too. It's very tricky to find, to know something about the true number but it must have been several hundreds who came together here on the morning of the 10th of June.
After destroying Cressing Temple, the Essex rebels started their advance on London. By nightfall on the 11th, they were burning tax documents in Chelmsford. Meanwhile, south of the Thames, the other arm of the pincer movement was still pressing on the capital. Wat Tyler and his men were making camp on the first night of the march from Canterbury to London, somewhere around Maidstone. Mike's made good progress following the same route. Without foot soldiers to hold him up, he's pushed 5 miles beyond Maidstone. But it's taken him all day.
Oh. How are you, Mike? Actually, surprisingly good. Surprisingly good. Right. It's been a long old day. They couldn't have done the same distance that we've done today on foot. I think people on foot, just keeping a steady pace, would probably be only 4 or 5 hours behind. And obviously as they're coming along, they're gathering fresh people as they come, so not everybody's going to be as footsore as the others. You want to go to bed, don't you? Let's go.
But it's already 10 o'clock at night, so foot soldiers lagging 4 or 5 hours behind would have had a hell of a distance to make up. Already, the idea that 60,000 peasants moved en masse through Kent is beginning to look implausible. With twin peasant armies converging on London, the city was gripped with rumour and panic. The boy King Richard and his court, including his hated advisers, beat a swift retreat from Westminster to the Tower of London. Why was the king holed up in the Tower? Didn't he have all the resources of the Crown available to him?
Well, the king and his chief ministers, Archbishop Sudbury and Lord Treasurer Hales, have had to take to the Tower for his own security because of the reports that are reaching him of the sheer scale of the disturbances around London and the southeast. We've got to remember that at this time there's no standing police force and there's no national standing army. The professional soldiers of the Crown are actually at the moment fighting in France, where they need it, and so Richard has only a limited number of men at his disposal at this time.
OK, so he's outnumbered in here. What are they planning to do?
Well, clearly Richard and his ministers have got to come up with some kind of strategy to get the rebels out of London.
But he's a 14-year-old boy.
Well, it's remarkable how Richard's ministers behave like rabbits caught in the headlights and simply have been shocked by this national revolt that they were totally unprepared for. And so the young king seems to be the person who has to call the shots himself.
How easy would it have been for the rebels to break in here?
Well, what we see now is some of the most state-of-the-art defences of late medieval England. The tower was an exceptionally well-defended building. In the 14th century, there would have been even more perimeter defences than what we see now. And so, if the garrison had been wanting to put up a stiff fight, they could have done so with a fairly small number of men. But the problem is that he doesn't have enough men to take the fight out of the tower and take on the rebels, who are much superior in numbers.
So he's OK as long as he's here, but there's nothing else that he can do?
Absolutely, he's got to sit tight.
The king could only wait for information. Meanwhile, the rebels were pressing steadily on from Canterbury. On the second day of their journey, Mike and his men have put on a spurt, thanks to some authentic medieval technology. They've swapped horses. These specialist Icelandic ponies are as close as we can get to the medieval horses called amblers. Mike!
Tony!
Relief to see you. I thought you were lost.
Well, yeah, it's been quite a leg of journey, this one. We've done about 18 miles. And look at these, they're fresh and sprightly.
These are not the horses you started out with, mate.
No, they've shrunk a bit, haven't they?
Yeah.
These are Icelandic horses. The significance is not that they're Icelandic, but that Icelandic horses are ones that have kept the lateral gene. In other words, they've got a different type of walk. If I show you,
yeah.
Look how she's going. If she goes along here like this, look how she goes. And I'm not bouncing up and down, because what's happening is her legs are going, these two are going that way, then these two, so it's a side-to-side motion. So I'm just gently rolling in the saddle. I haven't got all this action while I'm riding. When you're travelling a long distance, you want comfort. And it's also a good thing for the horses, because what they're doing is not putting the impact directly into the ground. They're running like this.
Yeah, because even when we were just trotting on those metal surfaces, because I hadn't ridden for ages, I came away pretty shaken.
Yeah, because you're getting that. So
yeah.
You're getting the... And imagine what it's doing to that part of a horse's leg.
Yeah.
Now, that wasn't an issue in the Middle Ages because they didn't have metal roads.
We've got a problem. The tough little amblers have got Mike within striking distance of their destination, but we can't use them again today, and our original horses are worn out from the day before on the roads.
Hour after hour on metal roads, he doesn't do the amble, he does the trot.
Yeah, yeah.
And there he's getting concussion, and it's not too bad, but the early signs are he's got a little bit of inflammation here.
Yeah.
Which means today, because I adore this horse, I don't want to push him through any discomfort, so we're going to have to walk now. And
that hurts, doesn't it?
yeah, well, we know we could have done it,
yeah,
but we've got to look after the horses first, so I think that's going to slow us down a lot now. We'll just see how far we get.
Desperate medieval peasants might have risked their horses, but this is only telly. As Mike hits the suburbs, it's a question of how much further his horse can manage.
What do you think? Is he picking his feet up well?
I think he's all, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, he's all right. He's sound. He's not yet lame. It's just that if I were to push him, then he might become lame.
I'll see you in Blackheath.
See you in Blackheath.
Over 5 hours later, I'm waiting for Mike with my own rebel academic. We're on Blackheath, where 60,000 rebels gathered, and it's 12 minutes past 8, and Mike was supposed to be here at 5 o'clock, and we're losing the light, and it's starting to rain, but at least we've got an authentic campfire.
Very nice and warm. Unfortunately, we haven't got any tax documents to burn on it, as the rebels would have done in 1381.
They did choose a fantastic spot to meet up though, didn't they?
Well, it's nice and open. Nowadays, it's a rather well